The dreadful day of judgment. There were 4 of them working in the cemetery. They were employed by the city corporation. To do what? Even the foreman was vague about their duties, which had not been very precisely specified. Not to clear the central part, certainly, for that would have been a task not for 4, but for 400. And a wildlife sanctuary, for which purpose it was designated, must be wild. To tidy it, then, to remove the worst signs of vandalism, to carry away such gravestones as had fallen, to denude certain of the many winding paths of the intrusive bramble and ivy and nettle. When they asked the foreman whether this should be done or that, he would say to use their own judgment. He couldn't be sure. He would find out. But he never did. Sometimes an official from the corporation came and viewed the work and nodded and disappeared into the hut with the foreman to drink tea. As the winter came on, the official appeared less often, and the foreman said it was a hopeless task. They needed more men. The corporation could no longer afford to spend the money. They must just do the best they could. The hut was just inside the main gates. The foreman had a plan of the cemetery pinned to the wall next to Gilly's calendar of the girl in the transparent nightdress. He had a kettle and a spirit stove, but the cups and the teapot had been brought by Marlon, who got them from his mother. The hut was always hot and smelly and smoky. The foreman chain-smoked, and so did Marlon, although he was so young. And everywhere in the hut were saucers full of ash and cigarette stubs. One day Gilly, who didn't smoke, brought into the hut a tin can he had found in an open vault. The foreman and Marlon seemed pleased to have a new, clean ashtray, for they never considered emptying the others, but let them fill up and spill about the floor. "Marlon'd be scared stiff if he knew where that came from," said John. "He'd die of fright." But Gilly only laughed. He found everything about the cemetery funny, even the soldiers' graves, the only well-tended ones, that the Imperial War Graves Commission still looked after. In the beginning he had amused himself by jumping out on Marlon from behind a monument, or a pillared tomb. But the foreman, lethargic as he was, had stopped that, because Marlon was not quite as they were, being backward and not able to read or write much. The main gates hung between what the foreman called stone posts, but which John alone knew were Corinthian columns. A high wall surrounded the cemetery, which was of many acres, and the periphery of it, a wide space just inside the wall, had been cleared long before and turfed and planted with trees that were still tiny. This was to be a public park for the townsfolk. It was the centre, the deep heart of it.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?